There comes a point in life when we all must learn to stand alone, not because we dislike others, but because our strength, peace, and identity must come from within. In a world that constantly tells you that you need someone else to be whole, it is revolutionary to be complete on your own. Happiness isn't found in dependency. It isn't in being validated by others. It's born when you accept your own company, understand your own value, and build a life that feels good on the inside, even if no one claps for you. We often associate solitude with sadness, but being alone is not the same as being lonely. There's power in silence, there's growth in reflection, and there's liberation in self-discovery. True freedom comes when you no longer chase attention, approval, or company just to escape yourself. When you can sit in a quiet room and feel peace, that is when you are truly powerful. This doesn't mean shutting the world out forever. It means learning to be whole before merging with others. When you're emotionally independent, your relationships become stronger, not weaker. Because you're not clinging, you're choosing. You deserve a life that doesn't fall apart because someone else walks away. You deserve a mind that isn't shaken every time you're alone. Build that strength. Find that peace. Become that version of yourself. Because when you grow strong enough to be happy alone, no one can take your happiness away. True strength comes from within, not from relationships. It's easy to feel strong when you're surrounded by people who uplift you, who validate you, who offer support at every step. But the real test of your inner power begins when you're standing alone, with no one clapping, no one checking in, and no one watching. That's when you realize whether your strength is real or borrowed. Depending on relationships for emotional stability creates a fragile foundation. If your peace of mind is constantly tied to someone else's presence or approval, then your happiness becomes something they can take with them when they leave. And people do leave. Sometimes by choice, sometimes by change, sometimes by circumstance. This doesn't mean relationships aren't important. They are. But there's a difference between wanting companionship and needing it to feel whole. When your identity, confidence, and calm depend entirely on being part of a relationship, then you're building your life on uncertain ground. The truth is, the strongest people aren't those who isolate themselves, but those who are completely okay whether they are surrounded by a crowd or sitting in silence. They don't wait for someone to motivate them. They don't crumble when left out. They find their center, their power, from a source that no one else can give or take away. When you learn to source your strength from within, through discipline, self-respect, and inner peace, you become unshakable. You begin to trust yourself more. You no longer panic when someone pulls away. You don't shrink when people don't notice your efforts. Because deep down, you know your strength doesn't come from outside forces. It comes from the work you've done on the inside. Solitude is not a punishment, it's an opportunity. Most people misunderstand being alone as something negative, something to avoid, something that signals failure or rejection. But solitude, when embraced with the right mindset, becomes a sacred space for growth. It is in moments of stillness that the noise of the world fades, and you finally begin to hear yourself clearly. When you're constantly surrounded by distractions, conversations, notifications, expectations, your mind rarely gets the chance to breathe. You move through life reacting instead of reflecting. But solitude presses pause. It slows you down so you can think, heal, and realign with your deeper self. This space allows you to understand your thoughts, face your insecurities, and sort through the emotional clutter that daily life often buries. It offers the chance to ask yourself questions without influence. What do I really want? What am I running from? What brings me joy when no one else is watching? In solitude, you no longer perform. You no longer play roles to fit into social molds. You are just you, raw, unfiltered, and honest. Many fear solitude because it forces them to sit with truths they've been avoiding. But those truths are the keys to personal liberation. When you stop fearing your own presence, you start becoming whole. Solitude can be the birthplace of ideas, creativity, clarity, and emotional resilience. Some of the world's most influential thinkers, creators, and leaders carved their greatness in moments of deep solitude. Not in crowds, but in the quiet. It's not loneliness. It's your soul asking for room to breathe and speak. When you give yourself that room, you stop fearing silence. You begin to treasure it, because you recognize that solitude isn't a void. It's a door to self-mastery. You must become your own best friend. This means learning to treat yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience that you would offer someone you deeply care about. Most people are their own harshest critics. They beat themselves up over mistakes, replay past regrets, and dwell on their shortcomings. But imagine how damaging it would be if your best friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself. Would you feel supported, or would you feel broken? The truth is, the way you talk to yourself shapes your inner world. And if you are constantly tearing yourself down, it becomes nearly impossible to build a life that feels peaceful or fulfilling. Being your own best friend starts with self-awareness. You must learn to observe your inner dialogue and catch yourself in moments of self-judgment. Instead of saying, "I'm such a failure," say, "I'm learning and growing." Instead of thinking, "No one cares about me," remind yourself, "I care about me, and that matters." Your inner voice becomes your home. You live with it every moment of every day. So make it a safe, empowering place, not a battlefield. It also means standing by yourself during your darkest hours. Anyone can love themselves when things are going well. But the real test comes when you've messed up, when you're hurting, when the world seems to be against you. In those moments, you need to be the one who doesn't abandon yourself. Encourage yourself, forgive yourself, comfort yourself. Sit with your pain and remind yourself that you are worthy even when you're struggling. Celebrate your small wins. Take yourself out. Do things that bring you joy even if no one else is around. Learn what makes you feel alive, peaceful, and confident. The more you invest in your relationship with yourself, the less you'll rely on others to fill your emotional gaps. A crowd ever will. You won't chase after people who don't see your worth because you already see it. You won't wait for someone to tell you that you're enough. You'll already know. Becoming your own best friend doesn't mean you don't need anyone else. It means you're not broken without them. It means you can stand tall, knowing that no matter what happens, you've got your own back. Your self-worth should never be determined by someone else's opinion. When you allow others to dictate how valuable you are, you hand over the control of your confidence, your peace, and your direction in life. You begin to live not as your true self, but as a reflection of someone else's expectations, judgments, or approval. This is a dangerous trap, because people's opinions are often shaped by their own insecurities, biases, and limited understanding of you. They see a fraction of who you are, yet we often let their words define our entire identity. That's like judging a book after reading a single page. It's not fair to you, and it's not accurate. You were not born to live according to someone else's comfort zone. The way you dress, speak, think, or dream does not need to align with the standards someone else has created. When you constantly seek validation from the outside world, you begin to silence your inner voice. You second-guess your decisions. You shrink your goals. You abandon parts of yourself just to be accepted. And in doing so, you disconnect from your own truth. Real self-worth comes from knowing who you are, regardless of who's watching. It's about honoring your journey, your values, and your uniqueness, even when others don't understand or appreciate it. It means standing firm in your truth, even when people criticize it. It means loving yourself fully, even when others try to convince you that you're not enough. Think about this: people's opinions change like the wind. Someone may admire you one day and criticize you the next. If your confidence rises and falls based on their words, you'll spend your life in emotional chaos. But if your worth is rooted within, built on your integrity, your effort, your growth, and your character, then no opinion can shake you. You become immune to the ups and downs of external judgment. Stop waiting for permission to feel good about yourself. You don't need applause to be valuable. You don't need to be noticed to be worthy. You don't need to be liked to be powerful. The most beautiful, a grounded version of you will emerge the moment you stop needing others to see your light and start seeing it for yourself. It also means standing by yourself during your darkest hours. Anyone can love themselves when things are going well. But the real test comes when you've messed up, when you're hurting, when the world seems to be against you. In those moments, you need to be the one who doesn't abandon yourself. Encourage yourself, forgive yourself, comfort yourself. Sit with your pain and remind yourself that you are worthy even when you're struggling. Celebrate your small wins. Take yourself out. Do things that bring you joy even if no one else is around. Learn what makes you feel alive, peaceful, and confident. The more you invest in your relationship with yourself, the less you'll rely on others to fill your emotional gaps. A crowd ever will. You won't chase after people who don't see your worth because you already see it. You won't wait for someone to tell you that you're enough. You'll already know. Becoming your own best friend doesn't mean you don't need anyone else. It means you're not broken without them. It means you can stand tall, knowing that no matter what happens, you've got your own back. Your self-worth should never be determined by someone else's opinion. When you allow others to dictate how valuable you are, you hand over the control of your confidence, your peace, and your direction in life. You begin to live not as your true self, but as a reflection of someone else's expectations, judgments, or approval. This is a dangerous trap, because people's opinions are often shaped by their own insecurities, biases, and limited understanding of you. They see a fraction of who you are, yet we often let their words define our entire identity. That's like judging a book after reading a single page. It's not fair to you, and it's not accurate. You were not born to live according to someone else's comfort zone. The way you dress, speak, think, or dream does not need to align with the standards someone else has created. When you constantly seek validation from the outside world, you begin to silence your inner voice. You second-guess your decisions. You shrink your goals. You abandon parts of yourself just to be accepted. And in doing so, you disconnect from your own truth. Real self-worth comes from knowing who you are, regardless of who's watching. It's about honoring your journey, your values, and your uniqueness, even when others don't understand or appreciate it. It means standing firm in your truth, even when people criticize it. It means loving yourself fully, even when others try to convince you that you're not enough. Think about this: people's opinions change like the wind. Someone may admire you one day and criticize you the next. If your confidence rises and falls based on their words, you'll spend your life in emotional chaos. But if your worth is rooted within, built on your integrity, your effort, your growth, and your character, then no opinion can shake you. You become immune to the ups and downs of external judgment. Stop waiting for permission to feel good about yourself. You don't need applause to be valuable. You don't need to be noticed to be worthy. You don't need to be liked to be powerful. The most beautiful, a grounded version of you will emerge the moment you stop needing others to see your light and start seeing it for yourself. This doesn't mean you ignore pain or pretend to be okay when you're not. It means you no longer outsource your joy to others. You learn to create moments of meaning on your own. You start to appreciate simple things: the warmth of sunlight, the peace of silence, the progress you've made. You realize that happiness isn't in the big, loud moments, but in quiet contentment, in being proud of how far you've come, in knowing you're enough even when no one is watching. The people and things around you can enhance your happiness, but they should never be the only source of it. When you give someone or something else the power to determine your emotional state, you give away your freedom. But when your happiness comes from the inside, from your values, your mindset, your habits, then no one can take it from you. You become emotionally self-sufficient, and that is one of the most powerful forms of strength. Cultivating inner happiness requires self-awareness. It means being honest about what truly matters to you and letting go of what doesn't align with your soul. It means healing old wounds, setting healthy boundaries, and surrounding yourself with energy that uplifts rather than drains. It's not about avoiding challenges, but learning how to remain grounded and grateful through them. Because once you learn to generate happiness internally, you no longer need to chase it. You carry it with you. Silence is where transformation begins. In the modern world, silence has become rare, almost uncomfortable. We are constantly bombarded by noise, distractions, opinions, and demands that leave very little space for stillness. Phones buzz, screens glow, conversations swirl, and we move through our days reacting to everything around us. But in that whirlwind of noise, we often lose touch with ourselves. We become so externally focused that we forget to check in with what's happening inside. That's why silence isn't just restful, it's revolutionary. It's the space where clarity is born, where confusion fades, and where deep transformation begins to take root. When you choose silence, you choose to listen, not to others, but to your own mind, your own heart, your own intuition. It's in silence that the most honest parts of you finally get a voice. The fears you've buried, the dreams you've suppressed, the pain you've ignored. All of it starts to rise, not to hurt you, but to free you. Silence invites you to observe without judgment, to reflect without pressure, and to connect with your truth without the need to explain it to anyone. It can be uncomfortable at first, because silence strips away the noise that often distracts us from our deeper emotions. But in that discomfort lies the opportunity for healing. You begin to notice your patterns, your triggers, and your tendencies. You realize which parts of your life are no longer aligned with who you're becoming. You start to untangle the chaos, piece by piece, thought by thought. In silence, decisions become clear. Priorities come into focus. You stop chasing what no longer serves you because you finally understand what truly matters. It's in those quiet moments. Early in the morning, late at night, or during a walk alone, when your soul begins to speak. And if you're brave enough to listen, it will guide you toward growth, freedom, and a deeper sense of peace. Silence isn't a void, it's a space full of potential. A crowd ever will. It's a mirror that shows you who you really are when no one else is around. It's where your inner voice becomes louder than the world's expectations. And it's in that space, where there is no noise, no pressure, no pretending, that true transformation begins. Personal growth thrives in solitude. While the world often praises busy schedules, constant interaction, and social validation, true development of character usually happens in the quiet, private spaces where no one is watching. It is in solitude that you are given the chance to confront your most authentic self, without distractions, without external opinions, and without the pressure to perform. These moments of being alone aren't wasted time, they are fertile ground for deep, meaningful growth that can't be found in the chaos of crowds. When you're alone, your mind has the space to process experiences, to analyze the lessons hidden within your past, and to question the beliefs you've carried without reflection. You begin to ask yourself powerful questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I becoming the person I want to be? Am I chasing what's real or what's expected? In solitude, the masks drop. You're no longer trying to impress, persuade, or be accepted. You are simply present, with your flaws, your dreams, your fears, and your potential. Solitude forces you to take responsibility for your life. There's no one to blame, no one to lean on for emotional shortcuts. You begin to understand your patterns of behavior, why you react the way you do, where your pain comes from, what triggers your anxiety, and what truly brings you peace. In that space, you gain insight and awareness that would be impossible if your mind was constantly crowded by noise and distraction. Personal growth also requires discipline, and solitude is the best environment to build it. Without the influence of others, you learn how to self-motivate, how to manage your time, how to set goals and stick to them. You begin to build a sense of integrity, because your actions are no longer about how they're perceived. They're about who you are when no one else is around. That kind of self-accountability is rare, and it is powerful. Solitude teaches you how to enjoy your own presence, how to become content with yourself, and how to pursue goals that are meaningful to you, not ones that are designed to impress others. It creates space for creativity, reflection, and reinvention. Many of the greatest ideas, breakthroughs, and moments of clarity in life have been born in silence, in solitude. In those still pockets of time where the outside world is quiet and the inner world awakens. Growth doesn't always look like loud achievements or public milestones. Sometimes, the most profound progress happens in a quiet room, where you're journaling your thoughts, reading something that expands your mind, or simply sitting in stillness, confronting what needs to change within you. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's preparation. It's the classroom where personal transformation happens. In learning to enjoy your own company is a superpower. In a world that constantly encourages external connection, likes, followers, social events, group chats, it may seem strange, even uncomfortable to be alone. But the ability to truly enjoy your own presence is not just rare, it's empowering. It means you are no longer dependent on others to entertain you, to validate you, or to distract you from yourself. You become self-contained, emotionally self-sufficient, and deeply grounded in who you are. When you enjoy your own company, loneliness no longer has the power to frighten you. You begin to see alone time as a gift rather than a curse. It becomes a space for self-discovery, creativity, and restoration. You develop interests that are purely your own. You start doing things not because someone else wants to, but because they bring you joy. Whether it's reading a book, traveling solo, learning a skill, or simply sitting in silence with a cup of tea, you begin to realize that your own presence is enough. This self-connection builds a foundation of inner peace. You're not constantly seeking someone else to fill a void, because there is no void to fill. You've spent time getting to know yourself, your values, your rhythms, your passions, and you've accepted all parts of you, even the imperfect ones. That acceptance creates a sense of wholeness that external validation can never replicate. Moreover, when you enjoy your own company, your relationships with others improve. You no longer cling out of fear of being alone. You no longer compromise your peace just to keep someone around. You choose people who align with your energy, not just anyone who will distract you from solitude. This selectiveness doesn't come from arrogance, but from self-respect. You know that being with the wrong people is far lonelier than being alone. This ability also gives you the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't serve your growth. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a draining job, or a life path that no longer resonates with you. Why? Because you're not afraid of being by yourself. You know that time alone isn't empty. It's empowering. It's time you can use to rebuild, to reflect, to reset, and to rise. Enjoying your own company also sharpens your intuition. When you're not drowning in other people's voices, your inner voice becomes clearer. You start to trust yourself more, make decisions that are true to your path, and build a life that is authentic, not copied, not borrowed, but fully yours. This self-enjoyment is not about being isolated from others. It's about having the freedom to thrive with or without them. Letting go is part of growing stronger. We often think of holding on as a sign of loyalty, strength, or love. But in truth, knowing when to let go is one of the most powerful things a person can do. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you've come to understand that your peace, your growth, and your future are more important than holding on to something or someone that's holding you back. Life constantly changes, and not everyone is meant to walk the entire journey with you. Some people are only meant to be a chapter, not the whole book. Yet, we often cling to relationships, habits, and situations out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of loneliness, fear of starting over. But real strength lies in trusting that what lies ahead can be better than what you're leaving behind, even if you can't see it yet. Letting go is not always about people. Sometimes, it's about versions of yourself that you've outgrown. It's about shedding limiting beliefs, unhealthy attachments, and old mindsets that no longer serve the person you're becoming. Growth requires space. You cannot evolve while dragging the weight of your past into your future. Letting go clears that space, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, so you can expand, breathe, and move forward without the burden of what no longer fits. This process can be painful. It can feel like losing a part of yourself. But that pain is not a sign that you're doing the wrong thing. It's a necessary part of transformation. Much like pruning a tree, you remove the dead branches not to weaken it, but to allow it to grow stronger, healthier, and fuller. The same is true for your life. Letting go of toxic relationships, unfulfilled expectations, or identities rooted in past pain allows you to step into a future built on truth and strength. It also teaches resilience. Each time you let go of something that once felt essential, you discover that you are capable of surviving without it. That survival turns into confidence. That confidence turns into self-trust. And over time, you begin to understand that your value and your peace are not tied to anything or anyone that can be taken from you. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It's a declaration that you're no longer willing to shrink, settle, or suffer just to keep something familiar. It's a bold step toward becoming more aligned, more self-aware, and more in control of your own path. When you're happy alone, you're untouchable. It means you've reached a level of emotional mastery where your peace is no longer dependent on anyone else's presence, approval, or behavior. You've built a life within yourself so full, so meaningful, and so steady that outside forces, no matter how unpredictable, can no longer shake your foundation. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming deeply connected to your own value and power. When you are content in your own company, you no longer feel desperate for connection, attention, or validation. You no longer seek relationships to complete you but to complement you. You're not clinging to people out of loneliness, nor making decisions from a place of fear or emotional scarcity. This kind of self-possession gives you control, not over others, but over yourself. And in a world where most people are driven by the fear of being alone, this is rare. It makes you powerful in the truest sense. Being happy alone also makes you immune to emotional manipulation. People can no longer guilt you into staying where you don't belong. They can't use your insecurities against you. They can't make you feel less than for choosing yourself. Why? Because you've already learned to be enough for yourself. You've faced the silence and found peace there. You've sat with your thoughts and built clarity from within. That strength is not just emotional. It's spiritual, mental, and practical. It changes how you live, how you love, and how you lead. You no longer settle because you no longer fear solitude. If something or someone doesn't align with your values, you walk away. Not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. You don't force connections. You don't beg for attention. You attract what's right for you by you being right within yourself. The world may offer you chaos, but you carry calm. It may offer you noise, but you live in clarity. That's what makes you untouchable. Not because you don't feel, but because you're no longer ruled by what you feel. This emotional independence allows you to operate from a position of abundance, not lack. You give love freely, not because you need it back, but because you are overflowing with it. You support others without draining yourself. You show up authentically without adjusting your identity to fit into someone else's expectations. You no longer chase what you've already created within. To be happy alone is to be complete on your own terms. It is to be whole. Not because of what surrounds you, but because of what's inside you. And once you've tasted that kind of freedom, no person or situation can hold power over your spirit again. So, learn to embrace solitude, not as a burden, but as a blessing. Let it shape you, sharpen you, and reveal the strength you forgot you had. Because when you grow strong enough to be happy alone, you stop waiting to be chosen. You start choosing yourself. And in that choice, you find peace, you find power, freedom, the kind of freedom that can't be taken, shaken, or broken. Stand tall in your own presence, because the moment you become whole on your own, the world can no longer define your worth. You already have.